and welcome to our series In Conversation. I'm Cassie Auld. I'm a partner in the real estate team of Waitmans Solicitors, and I'm responsible for the investor developer sector nationally at the firm. I'm joined today by Virginia Beckett, who is the CEO of Regent Capital. Regent Capital are an investor developer business who specialise in bespoke structured solutions for real estate investment and development. Virginia, thank you very much for joining us today. How are you?
Hello, I'm very well, Cassie. Thank you for inviting me.
Good, good. So this In Conversation series is one or two questions that I'm going to pose to you, and hopefully in the main looking at beyond lockdown into the future and what's the new normal going to look like, how are our lives all going to be, how is the property market going to be looking forward. But first of all, before we move on to that, how have Regent Capital been coping with the lockdown and the restrictions that have been placed on businesses and individuals during this time?
Thank you, Cassie. I suppose firstly, the fact that I already split my time working from home and working from London has meant that I've really transitioned into lockdown probably better than I might have had that not been the case. So clearly collaborating with team is challenging, and I think starting out with a regular team catch up has been great, and sometimes that's a work catch up and sometimes it's more social, and really just the ability to sort of feel part of a team has been really important. I suppose going on from there, Regent, I think we're in good shape going into lockdown from the point of view that we had already done some quite important asset management work, which meant that our key assets, which we're preparing for sale, are actually probably where the investor market is in terms of long income assets with strong covenants. So we've been continuing to prepare those for sale. On the other side of the coin, you know, it is very much a time of opportunity. There are a couple of opportunities that development-led opportunities that we have been and continue to pursue through lockdown, and I think our view of those assets is no different from how it was going in, from the point of view that we think they're fundamentally good projects in strong locations, and I think as far as we're concerned, you know, that still has to be the focus. Obviously what a good location looks like could change, and I'm guessing that might be the focus of later questions that you'll be asking.
Yeah, but it's really, it's helpful and heartening to hear you say that you think there's still opportunity out there, and that there is the real, you know, it's going to become a time of opportunity, because I think that is the hope, that from the crisis there will become opportunity and things will start moving again in the right direction.
I think Regent have always performed well in more difficult markets. You know, we don't like to overpay for assets, and I think it's easier to ensure that you've got, you know, you've paid the right price. We're not saying we want to, you know, steal, you know, assets. We just want to pay the right price that enables everybody, both buyer and seller, to come out of it with a deal that works, and that's very difficult in a hot competitive market. And as things have cooled down, I think that, you know, that opens up opportunities for us.
Yeah, and you've really done well structuring solutions that deal with difficult economies, like in 2008 onwards, with structuring deals in such a way that they could be done at that time, which was obviously a very difficult time for the property market. Great. Well, that's good. I'm good to hear lots of positives. So yeah, I guess the next question is, where do you see the future going? What's the new normal? I hate the phrase new normal, but what is this new normal that we're going into going to look like, do you think, for you guys and also for the property market, in investment development market in general?
I think there's been a big focus in the property press and the press generally on, you know, office working is dead, you know, what's not going to happen. And I think you know, what will dictate what happens going forward is human behaviours, and whether that's business leaders or whether that's consumers or whether it's, you know, the workforces that business leaders are going to need to work with to get the solutions right. I think we have taken a quantum leap forward in terms of technology, and some of the changes that have happened in businesses have taken, you know, 2 weeks to deliver something that could have delivered technically 2 years, but even culturally maybe 5 or 10 years. So I think there's been some real positives in actually showing what can be done, and perhaps getting over that presenteeism, perhaps the lack of trust in some businesses of their workforce. I don't think, though, that that means that people will continue to work long term from home necessarily. I think there will be the flexibility there to allow that. I think teams are still really important. I think, I mean, obviously it depends from a business to business. And I think, you know, realistically, some people have found it very, very challenging working from home, whether it's, you know, the circumstances in which they're working, or whether it's, you know, feeling isolated and away from, you know, their colleagues and their team. And I think the ability to bounce off each other is incredibly valuable. So, you know, from an office point of view, I don't believe the office is dead. Obviously, there are sort of short, maybe medium, who knows, long-term requirements to, you know, to take precautions to separate people, and therefore, you know, reduce the density of occupation. But I think it's too early to say the office is dead. And to some extent, the same really applies with, you know, with other sectors. You know, at the end of the day, it's really down to how consumers behave. And it may be, you know, it may be that in the short term people are sort of frightened of going back to the shops, or it may be that people start to become more comfortable with that as they see, you know, as they see the virus retreating. But I think, again, going back to the fundamentals of location being absolutely key to future investments that we would certainly look at, and the ability to put deals together which focus on the very best locations for the asset, whatever that might be.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. And I mean, it'll be the same in hotels and all the, you know, retail hotels. It's going to take some time, and people need to build up their confidence again. But as these businesses put measures in place, it'll be the same with us going back to offices. You know, if we're putting measures in place to make sure that they're not overcrowded, that people can still work comfortably and feel comfortable, then that's gonna make a big difference to it. And location's interesting, because hopefully in some respects it might actually, maybe it'll push things out a bit, and there'll be locations springing up that become, you know, good investments or good for development that weren't before.
Yeah, I think local, you know, the local focus that we've seen during lockdown, I think, is encouraging, and it would be great to see that continue. You know, you've seen innovation in, you know, retail, leisure, that I think is the key to survival for many of these businesses. You know, it's not, I mean, obviously survival of the fittest, but I don't think it's survival of this. It's survival of the innovator is what we're going to see. And I think local businesses are absolutely ahead of the, you know, ahead of the game in terms of what they've been doing through lockdown. And that's really good to see, because, you know, suburban, you know, retail locations have been dying on their knees. And if that can change, I think that would be an amazing thing to see. I think it's too early to say, but it would be a really good, you know, something very good to come out of this.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, talking about coming out of this, what are the two, have you got two nuggets or takeaways that you could maybe give people in terms of positive, you know, things to go forward, a couple of bits of advice? Or
yeah, I think follow the direction of travel would probably be my key mantra. And I guess it probably, you might say it's 1 point or 2 points, but, you know, the government have said they want to spend their way out of this. The green agenda and the green recovery is, you know, a very important aspect of that. Regent Capital have already invested in a smart energy consultancy business, because we believe there are opportunities to bring energy and property together in a way that isn't being done to its greatest potential at the moment. And I think the investment opportunity in energy is perhaps something that hasn't necessarily been fully embraced. You know, we're not just ticking green boxes, we're saying, you know, there are revenues, long-term secure index-linked revenues embedded in energy, and the opportunity to unlock those and structure commercially viable energy-led either investments or properties with an energy sort of focus. And I would say, you know, that's certainly somewhere that we're very keen to continue to grow. And I think investors are showing a priority for ESG investing, which, you know, is somewhat led by, you know, performance. I mean, at the end of the day, I think there's a recognition that, you know, that if it's being supported and embraced, that's a direction that investors want to go as well. So I think follow the direction of travel would be my main focus going forward.
Takeaway going forward. Yeah, brilliant. Yes, I mean, it does seem like obviously climate change is still there as a huge issue, although it's been pushed a little bit into the background. So if energy can become an investable part of property development, or as you say, a long-term you know, source of revenue in addition to other parts of the development, occupiers, whatever, then that does seem to be a way in which the property industry can, you know, bring that forward to the fore and start to integrate that and make those positive changes going forward. Yeah. Brilliant. Well, listen, thank you very much, Virginia, for joining us today. Short and sweet. Good to get your views on good to hear you guys are working away, and also to get your views on the future and your advice going forward. Thank you very much. This has been one of our In Conversation series. These will be put up on our website and through our social media channels. And I've been Cassie Auld from Waitmans and Virginia Beckett. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Cassie.
Thank you.